everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Cioffi here on this Tuesday. Getting closer and closer to the big day of Christmas, and we are just still trying to resolve the mystery of who's going to get a white Christmas and who isn't. I hope everybody had a great day. We've had models kind of do all sorts of different things today in the longer range and even in the shorter range. Some interesting things beginning to show up. And I am going to put this all in rhyme for you. So just give me 1 second while I set it up. And I have it in rhyme with regards to the weather pattern that we're going to see over the next 7 days. Because all this cold air that's coming down, I mean, it's really very impressive in terms of the magnitude of this cold air. This is not, you know, just some ordinary cold Canadian air mass. It had its origins from Siberia, and as a result, we're seeing all sorts of fun things as far as temperatures are concerned, and when we get into the long range. But why don't we, what I'll do is, I'm going to, at this moment, I'm going to loop the latest GFS. I'm going to start it from the beginning, and while that's going on, you can let me put this into perspective, at least as we've got it so far with Christmas coming. Just like 'twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. But Jostradamus is in no mood for a fight. He would prefer that his Christmas be white. Santa is under such workplace duress. Just took a glance at the new GFS. Jolly St. Nick was happy, at least, that the new European went slightly to the east. The colder models that ran overnight leave us a chance that Christmas is white. Jostradamus just looked at the new GFS, and he must say he is rather impressed. The model is showing us something quite bold. It is much further east with the air that is cold. Should these trends continue tonight, a white Christmas we'll have both by day and by night. Snow for Christmas certainly is nice. Some folks may see it on Friday with ice. Models showed a white Christmas early today, but evil forces might keep it away. Cold air coming in will give us a feast. Too much cold air, and it goes out to the east. The new GFS brings this to the fold. It overwhelms us all with the dry air and cold. And if this happens, asleep or awake, you won't see the snow, not even a flake. I hope you guys enjoyed that, okay? I've been writing pieces of this all day long, putting them up on my Facebook post, and I just kind of lopped them all together, and that pretty much summarizes what's going on in our weather. So, you know what? Let me bring this back. First, I want to just touch upon the teleconnections, because we've been spending some time with this over the last week or two with what's going on with the pattern. And a couple of things are going on. Remember that these things change every day as models change, obviously. And there's two things that are happening right now. The PNA, the Pacific North America Index, which is telegraphing that a ridge is building out in the west, is going from strongly negative to neutral very, very quickly. So this is a fast building ridge that's out in the west, and then it goes negative again as we move into next week. Meanwhile, the NAO index is crashing down to neutral for 1 day, and that's Friday. So we have the PNA going neutral on Friday and the NAO going neutral on Friday as well. So this has now presented a problem with regards to the weather on Friday in the Northeast. Then, of course, the NAO rises as strongly positive, so there's no blocking going into next week. The signals for cold and for snow, the West Pacific Oscillation, which I haven't really talked too much about, and the East Pacific Oscillation, but when these two oscillations are both negative, that is, especially the EPO. The EPO is the one that's really important here. It is off the wall negative for much of next week. Actually, it goes off the wall negative in the next day or two, and then stays off the wall negative. Anytime it's minus 200, that's pretty much usually the top of the range. When it goes over that, That's really powerful stuff here. You don't see that too often. When that oscillation is negative, it really favors cold air into the United States and into the east. So you always, you want that negative EPO. It really helps you out a lot. So let's go to what the models are doing here with regards to the short, and then the longer range into Christmas and beyond. So I will. I'm going to start off with today with the upper air, because I think this is really important in the scheme of things because of what we're dealing with here. I mean, it's always important, but it's extra important today with the weekend coming up, and with the Christmas Eve and Christmas Day and weather and people trying to travel around. Here's that deep trough that's centered around a vortex that's dropping just south of western Hudson Bay, pushing down into the southern plains. This is a really strong polar flow. I mean, if you follow the the flow around the jet, going south to north over Alaska, but then it comes down from the Arctic regions right down into west central Canada and into central Canada, into the plains, the Midwest, down into the middle Mississippi Valley, and pushing its way southward. And then when you see the edge of the blue line where it starts to disappear, this is for Sunday, by the way, what I have drawn. That's where you start to get to the edges of that very cold Arctic air. Gradually, that cold air is spreading out. You can see it here. The model today holds on to this vortex. One of the things the model was doing for a few runs was weakening this vortex over time next week. So there was some argument as to how much of that cold air was really going to survive in terms of the magnitude. And on this particular run, if this is right, we're talking brutal cold here in the east with that whole upper low swinging eastward, and then it lifts up and out. But you still have the basic pattern holding together with that flow coming down out of Canada. There's a lot of short waves that are going to be running around as we go into January. That ought to make for some interesting times as far as snow and ice threats across the United States as we go forward. So we're in a pretty interesting and I think potentially exciting pattern for the next couple of weeks. In the meantime, in the short range, which I neglected to show you, here's that trough setting up now as we go into the setup phase, and we're going to see two systems here come up, a break-off energy that you can't really pick out too well here in the jet stream, and then the upper trough swings around with a second low, and that's going to produce the system that's going to affect much of the east Friday night and on Saturday. So why don't we go to that and on the surface and see how this is going to play out, because we've got numerous areas I think that are going to be impacted with regards to precipitation going forward. Let's first start off with what's going on at the moment. I actually did see some video tonight from the Pacific Northwest up in Washington State. I forgot where it was, but it's in that area where you see the darker blue in eastern Washington, where it was snow. I mean, absolutely near zero visibility. It was just amazing to watch. It was like a snow globe. That's the next. That system is pushing into the Pacific Northwest. We have a weak system moving out of the western Gulf states. It's going to be moving east and heading with some rain across the south, the deep south, and the Carolinas. There really won't be any impact to the east with that. And now we've got a colder flow setting up in the northeast. Now what's happening is, here's that system that comes into the northwest and translates now into the Rockies and southern plains. Bitter cold and snow into Colorado and Wyoming for Thursday. That seems to be on course here. As we move along, a piece of this is going to break off. Now, notice this high pressure kind of envelopes around it and starts to build down down the northeast into the mid-Atlantic states. This is in response to that NAO going neutral and giving a little bit of blocking. So that high is going to hold in. And we're going to see, as warmer air starts to try to come in, this warm front's going to get pinched a bit, and there will probably be an area of snow and ice that will develop from this during Friday morning across Pennsylvania and upstate New York. And depending on how pinched that warm front gets, it will determine the extent of this area of rain and ice and snow. It's not a big deal, but it is coming on a Friday. That's a travel day, so that's going to cause headaches. And of course, we also see rain breaking out at this point on Friday from East Texas on up into the Tennessee Valley. The brutally cold air is getting ready to make its plunge. The second piece of that brutal cold air mass is going to be getting ready to make its plunge up into the northern plains. And you see that high, actually even to the northern Rockies, excuse me, you can see that 1051 high coming down out of western Canada. Now, in the meantime, low pressure develops from that Gulf system and moves northeast. You have a low near Nashville. This is Saturday morning, and there's probably going to be some snow out of this. If this is right, watch it model trends here, as they've been shifting a little bit further to the east with every run. But this certainly could bring some snow to St. Louis. Chicago, I think, is a possibility too. Milwaukee, you can see that it does change over to snow, even if it starts as rain in Chicago, changes over to snow, and into parts of, into the northwestern, on a diagonal, if you draw a line from Evansville northwest into the northeastern corner of the state. From there, north and west, some snow there also for eastern Illinois. Much of Michigan, north and west of Detroit looks to do pretty well out of this. And then the low runs up into upstate New York. Meantime, you've got this brutally cold air starting to really spread out across the plains and down into the middle Mississippi Valley and pushing southward. This front approaching the East Coast, there'll be some rain ahead of it with that. Initially with the shot, there's ice and rain moving up through northern New England until the low goes by. And then here's our front. Now, here's the problem for Christmas Day for the Northeast. It's a delicate balance that you have between the cold air that's coming down and that big upper air trough and the ridge that's out in the Atlantic that's kind of divided with that frontal zone in the middle. Now, if you have too much ridging in the Atlantic, then that front hangs back further northwest. The cold air has a tough time moving in. When the wave develops on the front, you wind up with mostly rain, except maybe some snow in far northern and western areas. The other possibility, and this is what the afternoon GFS run is showing, and I actually did have a couple of conversations with people about this during the day, this is something I'm also worried about. If this cold air is much more important, if you have that vortex being so dominant as it comes down, what that does is it basically overwhelms the east with so much cold air that the wave that develops stays flat and way out to the east and is of no consequence. And that's what this latest run of the GFS does. It overwhelms with very cold air into the east, and in fact we get the core of that cold air moves in for Tuesday into all of the Northeast. So this would be brutally cold in terms of temperatures here. We'll look at the 2-meter temperatures in a bit to see what happens, and then it starts to moderate probably when we get into Thursday, and then we start to see some energy coming out for late next week. That might be at a time where the PNA may be trying to go positive. We'll see. But there is at least some hint of maybe something at the end of next week, or perhaps going into New Year's. But let me show you the run before this on the GFS to show you the difference. So back we go. Let me just back it up. And so here's your front that comes through. Now in this instance, the model was weakening that polar vortex. So as a result, the cold air doesn't overwhelm. We kind of get into the edge of that cold air Sunday night and Monday, and then the wave develops, and we're just cold enough for mostly snow. Now this would be, by the way, this is not going to be a major snowfall by any means. We're talking about a light snowfall here in the east that might put down a nice mantle of a couple of inches, and folks that really would like a white Christmas and love the whole concept of it, the idea of it, would get that without being too disruptive to travelers, because most of this would be overnight, Christmas Eve night. The bulk of it would be done before, say, mid-morning in most areas, maybe around noontime in the Boston area if this were to work. But the major difference here in the models is the fact that the cold air waits to come in, the core of that cold air, and in fact, on this model, because it kind of weakened that vortex, the coldest air actually stays up in southeastern Canada rather than coming all the way down. So that's very important. That's a very important distinction and a very important difference in how the models are handling this. So, you know, we need to kind of rectify where this is going to go with regards to the cold air. Is it going to be, you know, is it going to bleed in? Is it going to come in and overwhelm? Or, you know, the other option is what models were showing earlier is that, and I think that's becoming less of a possibility because of the structure of the trough, that you're going to wind up with a front that stalls out further to the west, which is what the European was doing, by the way. And when we looked at today's European model, it kind of went more with the GFS. So here's Friday. Now we're going into Saturday. There's that low in northern Mississippi, which by Sunday morning is way gone. But the trailing front from here is from just east of Boston to offshore New York City, comes back inland into near Virginia, North Carolina, and goes southwestward into where the low is being shown in southwestern Georgia. That wave runs northeastward, and you can see it here east of New Jersey, south of Long Island. Now this is a significant shift eastward from the prior run, the prior two runs, in fact. When we go to, if I go to last night's run, last night's overnight run, now it's going to be off by 12 hours, but the low was in western North Carolina and tracked over Chesapeake Bay to just east of New York City to just east of Portland, Maine. So it's a much further east track. It certainly shows that cold air is going to become much more part of the equation on the new European. And when you match up the precip amounts and everything else, it pretty much is in line with the GFS. So really that is what constitutes our issue here with respect to the chances for a white Christmas. I don't think we can, we're at the point where we're going to have to, you know, rest our laurels on one particular run of the models, because it's just way too early for that. We're seeing this decided shift back and forth going on, and I know it's annoying. It can be quite annoying, in fact, because you're trying to get some clarity in all this. But I just want to show you here the how cold this air mass is. This is at 7 p.m. Monday. I'm sorry, 7 p.m. Sunday night, Christmas Eve. These are the forecast model temperatures, actual ground temperatures. And the blue, the light blue, there's your 32-degree line. So it's just about to New York City, it's just west of Boston to about New York City, on south and west from there. And as we move through the overnight into Monday morning, so now we're at Monday morning, there's your 32. Everybody's below freezing here. And this is the reason that the model did not show any snow on this run for the coast, was because of the fact that you are overwhelming cold air. And notice that this is incredibly cold. We're talking about temperatures below zero. Chicago looks like it's just above zero, but in all of Wisconsin, you're running anywhere from probably 10 to 20 below. You've got 20 to 25 below temperature readings up in Minnesota and into the eastern part of the Dakotas. You've got temperatures in the teens and single digits extending all the way back to the Rockies, and you've got temperatures down in the 20s, down to the Gulf states, to New Orleans, Biloxi, all along the Gulf Coast. Temperatures in the 20s. The only spot that really kind of is a bit immune to this is southern Florida at this point. So this is Christmas morning, and these are the highs for Christmas Day. So let's use these are 1 o'clock temperatures. Still a good chunk of the Great Lakes, the western Great Lakes, not above zero, and some places not even above -10. Then we go into Monday night and Tuesday morning. This is where the cold air starts to really starts to overwhelm the east, and you've got the whitish areas all single digits. So you've got single digits in northeastern Pennsylvania, throughout much of upstate New York and northern New England. You start to go to single digits and below zero as you head back into the Midwest, and again another night of -10, -20 degree readings across the upper Midwest and the northern plains. I mean, this is really brutal stuff here, folks. And also another night of very cold temperatures down in the deep south. Here is Wednesday morning. of next week, the air mass begins to moderate a bit, but you have a fairly large area of single digits down into Kentucky, the Carolina Mountains, the mountains of Virginia, single digits and teens across much of the Northeast, some below zero readings in upstate New York and northern New England, and then the moderation continues from there, although even Thursday morning you're still talking temperatures in the teens and 20s to near 30. You can see where the freezing line, and also you can see where the warm air starts to punch up into Missouri, and you start to get into the 60s in Texas. So when you see a temperature profile like this, you know there's something going on, and we'll go to the surface map, and you can see it right there. There's low pressure in Oklahoma that is developing, and that's starting to advect warm air coming up from the Gulf of Mexico and pushing its way up northward into the middle Mississippi Valley. And of course there's snow that breaks out into the cold air with this. But you know, this is way down the road, folks. This is at day 9 and day 10, so we're going into now New Year's weekend with this, with some kind of system. Whether it winds up being actually there or not remains to be seen. While all this is going on, let me just give a quick look to our friends over in Europe and in England, because I've really become enamored with the idea of when it snows in England and Ireland. But here we go for the next couple of days. Doesn't really look like anything ominous there. Looks like some showers of rain coming in Saturday night into Sunday, and then we've got a system for Christmas Day that maybe changes over to snow in parts of northern Scotland, and then a stronger low approaches as we move into Tuesday, and that actually produces some snow over parts of Ireland and Scotland and England as we move into the middle of next week. And this is actually a pretty cold flow here, with winds coming from Greenland and Iceland southeastward across Britain and over into France. So you know, some snow there for you guys later next week if this is right. You know, the models have been kind of showing this for the last several days, so you may get another shot of wintry weather up in the British Isles. For Canada, we'll go to southeastern Canada now. If I can find you, and I have. Let me shrink this a bit. So this map is a little bit different than the other ones. It's a little tighter, so it leaves for less room. So why don't we see how what this all means for our friends in Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, which will be getting some snow here at the end of the week. You've got that low going by on Saturday that's coming out of the northeast, that's going to be moving up to your west, so that looks like it's a snow to rain event. Beyond that, some snow for Christmas Day over Nova Scotia. Let me back that up. So here's our wave, the wave that's going to develop off the east coast. Some of that with that old front kind of extending northward. There's another lead wave that runs out way ahead. Looks like that brings some snow to Nova Scotia and parts of Newfoundland, and even some ice. And then some more snow chances as we move into Tuesday and Wednesday from a weaker system moving through. And at the end of next week, a couple of other weak systems, but basically you're into the cold air. So let's take a look now at what kind of snow this all means. So first off, let's look in Canada. So we know this is going to be a lot. This is all in centimeters. So, you know, some pretty decent snowfall amounts of 1 to 2 feet in some places across Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and on through Labrador and Quebec. Kind of the same old song for you guys, because you know how to snow. In the eastern U.S. Now, this is off the afternoon run, late afternoon run of the GFS, and I've just got it out to 10 days, so you can get a basic summary of where the model thinks snow is going to be falling over the next 10 days. Because of the fact that this run does not have the coastal snows from the system for Christmas Day, it's not showing very much. It's all, you know, inland, just inland of the coast. But again, if we go back one run, I would, which I'll do. You can see how different it is with that. Add that Christmas Day system, and then you've got snow basically. You know, white Christmas possibilities for Washington, Baltimore, on up to Philadelphia, New York City, and even more so for places like Boston, Providence. It might get a little bit more if that's the case. And of course, the lake effect machine is going to be working over the weekend and next week, late in the weekend and next week, as this cold air mass comes in. So basically, it looks like if you draw a line probably along, say, 30 let's 39, here's 30 north, so here's 35. So let's say about 37.5 degrees north. So from there northward in general, chances for snow. White Christmas for Chicago, Milwaukee, Detroit. So a lot of places that should have a white Christmas this year are going to have it. So we're going to just wait and see what happens with these weather models over the next few days as we take a look at and hope that I mean, I know for some people they don't want it. There are people, by the way, and we should acknowledge the fact that if it does snow, some folks are going to be called into work for that. So, you know, they'll be pulled away from their families, which is not a good thing. So just let's try and remember them, municipal workers and snow removal guys and so on, if it winds up happening. Again, not thinking this is going to be a big snow with regards to Christmas Day, and it could time itself where it falls during the morning, early morning hours, and I think that'll make a lot of folks happy. So let me join you now on the chat board. And Nick Cortez, thank you so much for hitting Super Chat tonight. That's a cigar for me, and I really appreciate it. Thank you. I'm going to give everybody a general hello because I started a little late. I can't, you know, run through it all. And I hope you guys enjoyed my poem from my take on A Night Before Christmas for meteorology style. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you miss it, when the video loads, you can replay it because it's right near the beginning. Let's see. Ryan Kong, the Asian weather boy, you better bundle up there in Minnesota. You're going to get brutally cold up there. Although I think for you folks in Minnesota, when it gets this cold, this is the time when you decide to maybe put long pants on as opposed to wearing shorts. Nick Cortez, why are we getting such a ridge this week? Are we going to get very cold after Christmas? Well, you saw from the models, the answer to that is yes. Does it stay cold through the first half of January? Well, I mean, it looks like it'll stay cold into the month of January, into the start of the month. Beyond that is, you know, that's a toss-up. I really don't know. But oftentimes when you see patterns like this that are this extreme, they tend to lock in for a while. So the odds are in, you know, might be in favor of having this pattern generally lasting in some form of what it is now. It may not be exactly the way it is, but in some form. Always smiling. Long Johns, yes, absolutely. Will northern New Jersey have snow chances till January? Well, Ronnie, yeah, I think, you know, first off, you know, there's a chance for Friday with a little bit of snow and ice with that first lead system, which isn't going to amount to much and it'll get washed away anyhow. But, yeah, let's, you know, I hope we'll see how this system for Sunday night, Monday pans out. I think there's still too much variability. But, you know, I've kind of shown you all the possibilities here. Now, let me just say that based on the things that we've seen over the last couple of months, today's late afternoon idea of overwhelming cold air and forcing everything way offshore, well, remember, we've seen westward shifts. We just saw it last Friday, and we saw it the Saturday before that. So we've got two of them that have happened in the last couple of weeks. So maybe the model is doing what it usually does, where it wants to kind of overwhelm and push things out to the east with a bias, and then winds up coming back westward. I would wait till, certainly I'm going to wait till the overnight model runs to see if it does it again, or does it kind of go back to what it had, or maybe it has some sort of a compromise. You know, judging from the strength of the trough, you know, I kind of would lean to the idea that this is going to be a snow or nothing event at this point. I was a little bit taken aback by how far west the trough was yesterday, but a lot of people were saying otherwise, and I got to give them credit. They had a better view of it than I did, because the models all pretty much shifted to the east overnight and today. So now we're going to kind of square it all off and see see where it is. And Jason Schaefer, there's even more uncertainty since we're almost into the medium range for Christmas. I think, Jason, again, the fact that you've got these teleconnection indices, especially the EPO now, going to an extreme number, and also the rapid change in the NAO and the PNA, going from off-the-wall negative on the PNA to neutral, and the NAO crashing just for a day to neutral. I think when you have those kind of things going on in the atmosphere, the rubber band is stretched pretty far, and models don't seem to handle that well at all. They seem to really have a tough time with that sort of stuff. So, you know, I think we are in for more bounces here over the next few days. David Allen, always smiling. Speaking to Always Smiling, said, it's been 7 years since our last white Christmas in the UK. I would assume the same for you in Ireland. Well, you know, it looks like the only spot that we saw on the map for snow was going to be up in Scotland. So it looks like it's not going to happen for you this year. But right after Christmas, later next week, I think you may get some more snow in time for the new year. And Timothy Parrish, yeah, the Superior freezing over again. Well, certainly this cold air mass is going to give it a start. Patricia Patrilak, I hope I said that correctly. I apologize if I didn't. New subscriber, lives in Larksville, Pennsylvania, not far from Wilkes-Barre. Love northeastern PA, by the way. Love, love, love northeastern PA. I come every so often. I go and fish the Susquehanna River up in Halstead with one of my buddies, Derek Wood, who, by the way, if you ever want to go fishing, go to Dreams Are Real, dreamsrreel.com. And he's a great guide for northern PA and for upstate New York. He knows every trib, every small lake, every large lake, every fishing hole, and he catches some incredible fish. I fished with him up at the Salmon River this year in September, and thank God he was there because he helped me land my salmon, and I was absolutely thrilled. He's a great guy. And by the way, on my website, meteorologistjoecioffi.com, there's a link on my homepage to him. If you go to the bottom of it, you'll see it. There's a picture of him holding a fish, and just click on him, and you get more information. Of course, if you like to ice fish, the guys up there are waiting for everything to freeze. Just trying to run through everybody's questions before I run out of time. James, NASCAR fan, good to see you here. I saw you on Facebook a little while ago too. All right, I think I seem to have covered it all today from everybody. Let's just want to make sure, just checking everybody's comment. I read through every comment here, folks, and I try to respond to any comments that are put on the videos afterward, but sometimes it takes me a day or two to catch up. Always Smiling, yeah, Canada's brutal right now. This is Siberian cold air that's moving down. It's not just plain old Canada cold air. It came straight from Siberia and the Arctic. Let's see. All right, I think I got everybody here. And by the way, the ridge in the east right now is because of the ridging that's going on in the east right now. It's not really a big, strong ridge in the east at all. It's more offshore. But you got to have some. But let me just clarify something with respect to that. If you have no ridging, then everything goes from west to east. If you have too much ridging, that's when you have a problem with warmer air coming up wherever the ridge is. So you have to have a delicate balance. You got to have the ridge in the right spot, depending on what part of the country you're in. So these are you got to have the ridge. It's very, very important. Nick, you're looking at March. Stop jumping. It's not even January. Oh, okay. Got to say thank you to Sean K, Nick Cortese again, and Matthew Williamson. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it from all you guys. That's 2 cigars for me. That's really great. With Christmas coming, I'll have that to enjoy. And I appreciate everybody's generosity, by the way. Thank you very much for doing that. All right, folks, I got to call it a night here because we are getting ready for showtime. So in case you missed it, I'll do it one more time with respect to how I'm describing the weather by in terms of Clement Moore, and 'twas the night before Christmas. Joe Stradamus is in no mood for a fight. He would prefer that his Christmas be white. Santa is under such workplace duress. Just took a glance at the new GFS. Jolly St. Nick was happy at least that the new European went slightly east. The colder model that ran overnight leaves us a chance that Christmas is white. Joe Stradamus just looked at the new GFS, and he must say he's rather impressed. The model is showing us something quite bold. It's much further east with the air that is cold. Should these trends continue tonight, a white Christmas we'll have both by day and by night. Snow for Christmas is certainly nice. Some folks may see it on Friday with ice. Models showed a white Christmas early today, but evil forces might keep it away. Cold air coming in would give us a feast. Too much cold air, and it goes out to the east. The new GFS brings this to the fold. It overwhelms us all with the dry and the cold. And if this happens asleep or awake, you won't see the snow, not even a flake. So we'll add to this tomorrow as this soap opera continues. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. Facebook Live tonight, the Joe Cioffi Show tonight, 9:15 on Facebook. We'll take a look at the new NAM, and we'll talk more of what the weather models have done today. Have a great rest of your day, and get your Christmas shopping all finished. We will see you tomorrow.